Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Friday, August 30th, 2019. Hope everybody is having a good Friday so far. This is the beginning of a holiday weekend for most of us here in the U.S. 4-day weekend, maybe just a 3-day weekend. Either way, please enjoy this extra time off that you do get, if you do get any. I know a lot of us out there don't even get weekends off anymore. That's the sad truth. Let's get right into our show tonight. Our solar wind speeds have definitely picked up. We are now looking at 588.7 kilometers per second with a density of 6.6. Current spotless day stretch right now is 23 days in a row, like we talked about this morning. That's 167 days in 2019 without sunspots. Also looking at the KP indice, we are starting to see a rise on that as well. Let's go ahead and go to our space weather section. Take a look at the official stats. There we go. As you see here, the space weather section of the grandsolarminimum.com. We are now reporting an increase of KP, which we are expecting G1 activity somewhere around September 1st. Or the 2nd. So solar wind might be getting here a little earlier. Let's have a little look at the coronal hole that we were dealing with, or will be dealing with here in the very short future. And as it turns away, we should expect, obviously, we'll be at an earthquake watch, as every time we see these kinds of scenarios, especially with a hole like this, it is not uncommon to have earthquakes and also volcanic explosions as well, which we've had plenty of those, and we'll get into that later in the show as well. But other than that, we don't have any reason to believe that there's a new active region, or maybe there on the very end of this. Let's pull it up real quick. Big Blue. Where's my Big Blue at? Where's she at? There she is, I think. Yeah, here we go. So let's look out here, guys. Got a little bit of activity right there, if you could see it. Very small. We've had much bigger areas. And a lot of times, too, I always kind of look at the outer corona here. And if this was a very active region, a lot of the times you'll see like this bulge over here in the corner. And we're just not seeing that with that particular region of activity. I'm sorry, I thought I heard you laugh.
That's the puppy.
Oh. All right, so that wasn't Mari, sorry. All right, so let's take a look at the sun as a whole, and we'll see if we have any activity. Not really. Some weak areas of brighter spots, but I think we all know we've seen much worse than what we're looking at right here in the past years. So still quiet sun. Can continue to see spotless days. Last time we had a streak like this, I think it went 35 days in a row without a sunspot. So maybe we should start up an office pool and figure if we're going to beat last time. Maybe not. Who knows? All right, our TSI is coming in on August 22nd, 2019 at 1360.651. So still on the downtrend. Did slightly increase, just barely above 0.7, but we are watching it, values dropping once again. So, all right, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on over to the World Report with Mari. Mari, take it away.
Thank you, Jake. On to the world news. Flash floods caused by torrential rains result in 5 casualties in eastern Uganda's Bulambuli district on August 28th and 29th of 2019. The storms triggered the swelling of a river that swept away the victims who were reportedly buried under the mud. Torrential rains also damaged the area's coffee and banana plantations. Authorities have already issued an evacuation notice to affected residents. Earlier this week, severe floods hit other parts of the country, including in the northern region, whose residents asked the government for immediate help. Severe flash floods left at least 7 people dead and several missing in a municipality in southern Morocco following torrential rains across the Taroudant province south of Rabat, Morocco on August 28th. Search and rescue operations are still in progress. According to a Moroccan news agency, the heavy storm on August 27, 2019, caused the river to swell and sweep across the nearby field where residents were watching an amateur football match. The victims were identified as 6 elderly men and one 17-year-old boy. One survivor was rushed to the hospital due to flood-sustained injuries. Footages of the horrific accident were shared across social media, showing people getting dragged by roaring waters. These floods affected the Tata province as well, prompting around 200 people to evacuate. Several provinces in Morocco were issued orange weather alerts for stormy weather, which will continue to strike the areas from August 28th through the 29th. During the last week of July 2019, flash floods spawned a landslide, killing 15 people and burying structures under 65 feet in Marrakesh. That's 20 meters. Tropical cyclone Padul hits Vietnam, leaving 2 dead, over 61,000 people affected in the Philippines. Tropical cyclone Padul named Yang Lu and Jenny in the Philippines. The storm made landfall in central Vietnam early Friday and has since degraded to a tropical depression. Despite losing wind strength as the storm moved inland, heavy rainfall will continue moving inland along the center and southern side of the storm into southeastern Asia. Locations from Da Nang to Ha Tinh experienced the worst of the storm. Up to 250 millimeters, that's 10 inches of rain, is expected from north-central Vietnam into central Laos and northern Thailand through August 31st. There is a high risk of flooding and mudslides throughout this region. A deadly tornado swept through Denzhou in China's Hainan province early Thursday morning, August 29, 2019, killing at least 8 people and seriously injuring 1. According to official reports, the tornado struck Nada town in Danzhou city around 3 o'clock local time. CCTV said dormitories for workers collapsed at 2 construction sites, killing 8 people. 1 person was seriously injured and another slightly hurt. Both were sent to the hospital. This is the second deadly tornado which struck China since July 3rd, when 6 people died and 190 got injured in the city of Kaiwan. Experts at the Liaoning Provincial Weather Bureau said at the time they are studying the cause of the tornado, which is rare in the region. Back to you, Jake.
All right, thank you, Mari, for that world news report. And, you know, unfortunately, we continue to report these landslides, these flooding events over and over again. The rare tornado in China, I mean, the changes to me are obvious. And yeah, you can blame some of it on social media and the availability of it. I don't know. I think this is all falling into place just like we had been told about grand solar minimum and what happens during these solar minimums. So this is an absolute gorgeous photo here, but folks, this says it all too as well. Mari, where did you find this? Space Weather Archive. Still gorgeous. I'm pretty sure we haven't seen pictures like this online. But indeed proof that our atmosphere is changing and changing rapidly. It is a gigantic jet. So I remember learning about these back in 2016. And it feels like that these are becoming more and more common, and this one's absolutely gorgeous. I've never seen one with this kind of effect before. So, all right, thanks again, Mario, for the World Report. Guys, stick around. We'll be right back with our climate news section.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, so tonight's climate section, more ridiculousery, if that's a word. I made it up. Jeffrey Sachs goes full retard on President Trump and climate change. What's this, you say? So according to Jeffrey Sachs, CNN, Donald Trump, Governor Rick Scott, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, and others who oppose action to address human-induced climate change should be held accountable for climate crimes against humanity. They are the authors and agents of systematic policies that deny basic human rights to their own citizens and people around the world, including rights to life, health, and property. These politicians have blood on their hands, and the death toll continues to rise. Trump remains in willful denial that thousands of deaths caused by his government inattempt, underfunded, and undermotivated response to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico in 2017. We covered that story pretty extensively. We talked to a lot of people who actually went down there and did the work to help rebuild the grid and help those folks. This was not a lack of the United States. In my opinion, from what I've heard from the utility workers themselves, their local government did not do anything in that country to prevent such disasters. And yes, there was thousands of people that died. Okay, we were told 1,000 officially, but there's more than that, and we know that because we reported on that years ago, that there could have been over 34 to 4,000 deaths from Maria. And we're talking about from the day of the storm. If someone died a week later because they were electrocuted because of a down power line, folks, that was a realistic chance. This was a disaster for them. And there was a lack of response. But there was as many people that could help that did go help. And when they got down there, it was overwhelming. Overwhelming, the work that had to be done. And it wasn't even from the storm. We're talking about trees being tied up against poles. So either the tree doesn't fall over or the pole doesn't fall over, one or the other. They later discovered a warehouse that was full of lineman tools, whatever you need to change out these lines, transformers, preventative maintenance, okay? It was there. It was being hidden. It was almost like the local government might have been a little bit lazy and didn't find it that important to keep track of infrastructure maintenance, especially since the entire power grid went down. Now, I'm not undermining Maria. That was a devastating storm. It was one of the worst that, Puerto Rico. I mean, again, my heart breaks to hear how many people died from this storm. And a lot of these people probably shouldn't have died. A lot of these people died after the fact of poor conditions, being electrocuted because power lines were still down and active in some areas. So this CNN author here seems to have a short memory about what was really, he didn't talk to anybody apparently that was actually there. He's basically regurgitating talking points from the Democratic side of things back when this storm happened, when everybody tried to throw this hate Trump about Puerto Rico. Everybody gave him credit because he was at a warehouse somewhere tossing out rolls of paper towels. You can't please them all, folks. It doesn't matter. But back to the article. This guy wants to paint how hideous that Rick Scott and Senator Marco Rubio and Trump and others, so basically all of you out there who decline to act on climate change, we should all be locked up, apparently. According to CNN, that's what they want to see. So no debate, and we should go to jail. We have blood on our hands, according to this guy here from CNN. How fair is that? Think about it. We live in a free country, right? But our mainstream media tries to control the narrative without giving us the proof. They won't even debate it. Recent scientific studies underscore the dire emergency ahead. Professor James Hansen, one of the world's leading climatologists, has demonstrated the Earth's climate has moved above the temperature range that supported entire 10,000 years of civilization. The risk of catastrophic sea level are upon us. Here we go. Another liar. Sorry, guys. That was kind of an important message. I'm glad I saw that, and I will be able to use that later when I talk about Dorian. But here, like I said, we have another person in the media who is abusing their power and painting this awful picture that because President Trump doesn't believe that man is causing climate change. In fact, Trump and his administration believe it's a natural cycle. And he believes that it's happened before and it's happening now, and it's going to warm back up again, and it's going to cool back down again, and it's going to warm back up. And I've heard him say that he is certain of that. And so are we. We all know this comes in cycles. We're alive for this very unique, special type of cycle right now, this grand solar minimum. And meanwhile, you have the left who is causing tons of confusion right now. And I think some people are willing to listen to this side of the fence, but when they see high-profile celebrities or politicians screaming at the top of their lungs, "We're killing our planet. We've got to do something now." This one stat, the sea level rise, we've already discussed that several times, folks. NOAA even acknowledges that we are experiencing 1/8 of an inch of sea rise per year. 1/8 of an inch. You know, and then you point this stuff out to the mainstream, and it's worse than that. But yet we show the proof, and we get called climate deniers. And now we should be thrown in jail. We should be stripped of our rights because we don't believe in a certain, I don't know, I call it climate science. It's like a religion. This reminds me of the old days. There was a chart that I did want to show you guys real quick. Is that the CO2 temperatures? Where's it at? Maybe it wasn't this graph here. Embarrassing. Thought there was a graph that I wanted to show you. Maybe not. Anyway, thanks to what's up with that. This thing's chock full of information. And I just thought it was important to highlight this as, once again, people like Anthony Watts, Mark Morano, who provide us with the proof, the actual transparency of the data. I mean, even when natural forcing, when things don't work out for our agenda, you still report on it. It's not how it works. You don't report on something that doesn't fit your agenda. I think Mari and I have done a pretty good job at reporting on heat news and cold news. Obviously, there's a lot more cooling to talk about since there's so much cloud nucleation taking place. Good Lord. I mean, to make it as bad, we've seen it before. He's already being called Hitler. But now everybody that jumps on board this, and by the way, I want to announce that Trump is rolling back more regulations. In fact, this has to deal with the methane, where there was strict regulations on methane. Now they're rolling back, and they're going to release more methane into the atmosphere. So this has probably got the Democrats boiling right now. I guess that means we're going to have more steaks and more hamburgers since the methane regulations are going to be drawn back, right? Because now, I mean, by Trump saying that, cow farts don't matter anymore, right? As if they ever did in the first place. But what's interesting is that these things that that we don't believe is causing warming or cooling, Trump is supporting that in his policies. So we've been over this several times before. Unfortunately, a lot of folks aren't really fond of the president, and I get why. But this is the administration that favors, their policies favor the science that we're following right now. Yeah, this is the hand we're dealt. And if we're going to get any kind of, how should I say this, time to prepare, I mean, could you imagine if there was someone from the other party in office right now with the Green New Deal? It would already be passed. They have the numbers in Congress. Their president could veto. I mean, could you imagine where we would be right now on food cost and energy cost if we had started some of these Green New Deal projects by now? It's terrifying. So until that party comes to their senses, I'm not going to be voting for anyone from that area at all, period. Their climate policies are absolutely job killers. And it's basically going to turn us into a third world country before we could even see the benefits of renewable energy, which, we've talked about over and over and over in the show, ways of getting renewable energy that's less hazardous to our atmosphere, our breathing air, our drinking water. Natural gas is the biggest one. Probably the reason why its energy is cheap as well. So another thing that CNN did not too long ago, and remember this picture, guys? Yeah, look at that. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Let's take a look at the 2019. Oh my God, the sleds, they're going to fall into the ice. Someone get them out of there. Or actually, the first question is, why would you take your sled across this lake knowing that it's melting, obviously? Because they know how thick the ice is there. They're not worried about falling through because this has been done before. Yeah. Here we go. 1984. Look at that. As the great Ed Bassmasters would say. Look at it. 84, 2019. The only thing that's different is 84, this is a cloudy, gloomy day, and this is a sunny day. So the sun glistening off the water really gives it that extra, oh my God, they're going to fall into the deep sea here. Yeah, I found that today. And, this again is an attempt from a party who is trying to paint the picture that our planet is rapidly warming, and to the average Joe, nobody knows about that picture from 1984. Thanks to Anthony Watson crew, we do now. And of course, you're going to have the people say, well, how do we know that's from 84? Well, what if that was from earlier in the day? No, those are clearly different dogs. Point being is there's photographic evidence of this happening in the past. It's nothing new. I reported on Wednesday, Tony Heller article, that we are experiencing possibly the shortest ice melt season in a while. So, yeah, we've seen some ice melt this year, but we also saw better ice growth last year coming into 19. So if we're already considering the melt season to be over, and we're not even in September yet. So think about that. How much ice growth are we going to, is 2019, 2020 just going to blow the roof off? And Mari, did you put anything about the volcanoes? Is that going to be something separate?
I'll probably do a separate.
So I'm not going to mention too much about it, but Mari has a volcano piece that she has put together. And I didn't realize how many 50,000 foot eruptions we've seen in 2019. Mari kind of puts them out there, and it's kind of concerning. We have a lot of volcanoes right now that are blowing out plumes as high as 50,000. The average, it seems like 25,000 to 34,000. That seems to be the average eruption most of the time. This winter is already to be predicted as colder. because of where we are in the solar cycle. But also, if you have to look at what's going on with our oceans, we're breaking out of an El Nino, possibly heading into La Nina. Worst case scenario, it's neutral this winter. But with all the cloud nucleation that we've seen since the solar minimum has begun, we're going to see more of it as this ash, this particulate, is going to be up in the atmosphere, and it's going to interact with cosmic rays, and it's going to create more cloud nucleation, more cloud coverage, denser, thicker clouds, which bounces back radiation into space. Meanwhile, blocking sunlight as well. And I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed the sunlight just doesn't seem the same anymore. Driving in all hours of the day. And my job relies me to be on the road in the morning, afternoons, the evening. And I'm telling you, it just doesn't feel like the same sunlight. And then the clouds are more frequent than ever, of course. The low-lying clouds that we know through history that grand solar minimums are known for these low-level clouds. So not surprising. But again, we're here to pull the carpet out, or the tablecloth off the table here, with the candle light and the glasses still intact. And when we find articles like this is what helps us defend these alarmists, these global warming freaks who think that they can scare people into believing that they're causing global warming. And if they show pictures like this, the one on the right that is, it'll scare people. I can't eat meat no more. Those dogs are gonna fall through that ice. I gotta buy an electric car now. I gotta participate in the solar and wind program with my local electricity company. I'm gonna pay this tax because I want to save my planet, because I care about my children. Look, we all care about our children. All right, there's no bones about that. And we've said this several times on this channel. We believe in clean breathing air and clean drinking water. And yes, we can do tons of things to help our environment as far as protecting it from pollution. But when it comes to man making an impact on climate, guys, the impact is so very, very small. It is nowhere on the scale that you've learned from mainstream media or even your own schools. In fact, we are showing the proof on this channel and this website as well. So I hope everybody utilizes the website, thegrandsolarminimum.com. We have a lot of links to a lot of papers, a lot of resources that we trust. And, on top of these articles that we discuss with you, there's links inside these articles that you can go visit yourself if you want the proof. These guys are very good. Him and Mark Martin, they're very good at putting in stories and making sure that they put their facts in here as well, not just spout off some opinion. These are facts. And we're calling CNN's bluff, and we're calling the mainstream media's bluff. Can't scare people into global warming, because there's folks like us out here who are critical thinkers who are going to help show this information so folks don't have to worry. All right, sorry. I wanted to check this out real quick as well. This is from Roy Spencer. Sorry about that. Let me zoom back out. And the story was about Florida major hurricane landfall since 1990. Now, yes, there are more intense hurricanes since the 1990s till current. We can actually count 1, 2, 3 that are around that 130 mile an hour marker or higher. We had the Labor Day hurricane back in 1935. It looks like we're going to have a repeat of that. Now, thankfully, we are not looking at the size of hurricane that we had here back in 1935. We had a landfall. The wind speeds were over 160 miles per hour. That's a Cat 5 all the way. Now, just got a text message from Lee Wheelberger. He brought up a really good point. The KP indices continuing to go up will also play in a factor of the intensity of this hurricane. And it's ironic that we are actually rolling into a solar storm this weekend, between the 1st and the 2nd. And the 2nd of the month is Monday. So as this storm is approaching Florida, If you're hearing people questioning the possibility of a Cat 5, we have to consider that because of the space weather that we are going to experience. And we'll talk more about that here in the forecast. So that's interesting to mention as well, though. But as you can see, we haven't had anything as strong as that Labor Day hurricane since 1935. And the trend is showing that it's just not going to quite make it. 1992, and then you compare to Charlie in 04, and then Michael is a bit of an uptick, and we'll see what happens with Dorian. If it stays a Cat 4, we're talking 130 to 140 on the miles per hour on the wind. So that trend doesn't fit as far as people trying to scare you into thinking that stronger hurricanes are going to be the future of Florida's weather. That global warming is trending these storms. Let's check out the link real quick. See if there's anything on here. Guys, I left it here for you to take a look at, but I thought it was important to talk about because there's a lot of people out there who, are stomping their feet and saying, I told you it's global warming. Look how big this storm is. This thing is impressive. I'm not even going to lie. Again, we'll go over all that when we go into the weather section of this. All right, so Chuck DeVore's Green New Deal preview in Texas. I was going over this. We've mentioned this before. I believe this might be the same town that we talked about before. But here they are admitting to us good Americans.
Media attention for its plans as well as $1 million.
Thank you, whoever you are. But it wasn't supposed to be this way in Georgetown, Texas. 75,000 population was to be the new poster child of the Green Movement. But what's happening is the opposite. And I was reading through this. The money situation they're in right now is atrocious. Last October, while the Green Dream was still in the full flower, the city applied for $1 million grant from New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg's nonprofit, Bloomberg Philanthropies, and it won. Basically to be used for the innovation and technology and advancement as far as storage, energy storage in these batteries. The grant's only real requirement was that the city serve as a public relations platform for Bloomberg's push to convince Americans to abandon affordable fossil fuels and switch to more costly renewable energy. Which, by the way, folks, they all have a lining in their pockets for this Green New Deal. They're all going to bank on this. They're the ones that made this law. They will get paid. Trust and believe that. Georgetown electric bills went up more when they added wind and solar, displaced cheaper natural gas in the power portfolio of Georgetown's municipality. Now, politicians scrambled for cover, and the bloom came off Georgetown's Renewable rose. Now largely embarrassed, members of the city council are trying to figure out how to unwind this renewable mess they voted for. Yeah, their predecessors, by the way. They're facing $7 million in shortfall, money that has to be made up by the city's residents through higher electricity costs. The city council voted 5-1 in July to instruct the staff to figure out how to wriggle out of this Bloomberg PR deal. It's sad we had to go through a vote first. This should have been obvious. On August 13th, the council voted 5-0 to officially kill the deal. The city is also raising property taxes. Wow. A council member who asked for the vote said he wasn't opposed to renewable energy, but that in light of the city's utility deficit, the city should focus on the basics rather than doing experiments. It's not an experiment. This is actually how it works. And we preached about this on this channel several times. Okay? Several times. That every state that is implied solar and wind, their electricity bills have gone up anywhere from 13 to 40%. And the states that get heavily involved with solar and wind. So Bloomberg deal is bad. They mentioned, so in Georgetown's case, for it to go truly 100% renewable energy using today's state-of-the-art mass-produced batteries from Tesla Gigafactory, the city would need an additional $400 million battery farm weighing some 20,000 tons to avoid a blackout on a quiet winter night. And after spending $15,000 for each household to build such a battery farm, its backup power will be drained in 12 hours with a second windless winter night, leaving residents shivering in the dark. If anybody knows any politicians and wants to get a message about solar and wind, this paragraph says it all right here. The $400 million battery that weighs 20,000 tons will be needed to avoid blackouts on a quiet winter night. All right. Now, each household would have to spend $15,000 to build such a battery, and its backup power would be drained within 12 hours if we had a second windless night. So one night, okay, you're fine. Second night, 12 hours, you're going to be cold. Better hope for some storm or a blizzard. Whew, that is scary. And I live in a state where it's possible we could see such an increase in our bills, as well as this state is moving towards these policies as well. Very, very scary, folks. All right, quickly go over some of the crop reports here. A lot of these reports are coming out, and it's safe to say that some of these crops are actually improved very well. Illinois, you're still in the middle. Indiana, definitely still in the middle, the fair to poor side of things. Kansas, not really that great, only 51% of good and excellent crop. The majority is fair. Kentucky, same thing. Not that great, not that bad though. Michigan, a little weaker there. Less good or excellent rated crop. More fair and poor crop than anything. North Carolina coming in with very poor crop numbers right now. Listen to this. They've got 12 very poor, 12%. 23% is poor. 31% is fair, leaving only 33% good to excellent condition crop. And unfortunately, those numbers could go up in the poor section as we have a storm that's getting ready to head through. Ohio, not much improvement. Only 30% rated good and excellent. A 44% fair crop and about 26% rated very poor to poor. So not too hot there. Texas, that number kind of fell a little bit if I'm not mistaken. 53% of that is good to excellent, while almost 40% is fair and a low 7% of good or poor to very poor conditions of the crops. So at this point in the year, it's getting better, but this is where we have to rely on stability of the weather. And that's something else we're going to get into here just in a few minutes, because that doesn't look good, in my opinion. Soybean crop, not so hot as well. Ohio, still ranked in the bottom of this. Over 26% rated poor to very poor, and 43% is in fair condition. Only 32% rated good to excellent in the soybean crop. Indiana, another state that's performing poorly right now, 33% good to excellent, 40% fair, and 27% from very poor to poor conditioned. Illinois, a little bit better, 50% good to excellent, 35% fair, and only 15% poor to very poor. So again, we're moving along. Looking at this map too, we've got suitable days of work out. Nebraska and Kansas and Missouri lately have been pelted with a series of storms. So it might be a little soggy in certain places in the state. So that's really the lowest areas of field work. But everybody else has got the green light, so to speak. So we are seeing increased productivity on our fields. But the question is, how long will these temperatures, summer-like, hold out for us? We'll find that out after our break, guys. Don't go anywhere.
You like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
Bear with me, folks. Hang on. I forgot one page. No biggie. All right, so let's take a look at our latest. And we have another wave coming off of Africa as well. That was shaded yellow earlier. But let's take a look at Dorian. And currently we have winds, maximum winds now of 125 miles per hour. So we are now approaching stronger winds as this thing is slowing down to 10 miles per hour. Earlier this morning, we had spoke about this, and we had speeds between 12 and 13 miles per hour. There's movement, and now it is slowing down. Now, there are some reports of a possibility of this thing curving, and that's good news in a way, because these new forecasts are saying that this thing is going to make landfall, and it's possible at this point that we could see the coast being hugged by this storm. Earlier projections had this thing coming all the way in the middle of Florida and raising up through the south like that. So now the models are suggesting some sort of a slight southwest turn. That's something we'll also watch, because the concerns of Miami, population, 2.7 million, could be affected. At this point, we don't see it, but this storm is already taking a turn, and the track is moving just a little bit. See if we can take a look at this bad boy in motion right now, and there is Dorian. Is trekking along, folks, and expected to make landfall late on Monday night into Tuesday. Let's take a look what qualifies hurricanes of what category. So 130 miles per hour is a Cat 4 hurricane to 156. Anything over 156 miles per hour is considered a Cat 5 hurricane. So with what I was talking about earlier in the show, Lee brings up an excellent point about KP indices increasing as we go into this weekend, expecting a solar storm as well. A bombardment of highly charged particles into our atmosphere as this storm moves, and the temperature of the water is warm enough right now to support an intensification of this storm. So the original call for 15 inches of rain in localized area could be just the tip of it. Again, we'll have to and I can already tell now that that is changing as we speak. We are starting to see that brighter yellow showing up. Isolated still, but still. We're keeping an eye on that. Like I said, we feel like this could be a factor as well. But it's already at a Cat 4. Take a look at the maximum sustained wind one more time, just to be on the safe side. Well, we're just below Cat 4 status. We're at 125 miles per hour. So in another 5 miles per hour, this far away, Dorian is still a dangerous hurricane and is expected to strengthen. Pressure is dropping right now, 950. So let's go ahead and take a look at our GFS outlook right now at the 18. And of course, this thing is not ready, like always. But this is Sunday, September 1st. We will be experiencing our solar wind. It's already beginning to increase right now, solar wind. And the storm's pressure is staying right around 952, 948 as it reaches the coast of Florida. Man, this thing looks dangerous.
Might slip off the coast and miss, though, hopefully.
There is that possibility that it just zips up the coastline and curves away. But this is the third time we've had to mention this about Jacksonville. Look at the intensity of rainfall here in Jacksonville. This is September 4th on Wednesday. And this is where we could see the 10 to 15 inches of rain within 24 hours. This particular GFS model has this storm going up South Carolina, dumping heavy amounts of rain into North Carolina. Now, this model is showing a little bit further inland. So a lot more rainfall than we originally thought in the first place. I mean, this thing's close to a Cat 1 still as it finally gets up into cooler waters right about here. Virginia, mid-Atlantic states, DC area. And just like we said 2 nights ago, the storm was originally going to take off and go into the Atlantic before it even got anywhere close to the Northeast. And now we have this thing edging all the way to the East Coast into the Northeast. Now, the good news is the majority of this storm is quite a ways away, and the heaviest of it right now really looks like it's going to be just off of the East Coast. Now, I'm not saying there isn't going to be some coastal flooding because of storm surge, but at this point right here, this particular model is showing us that this storm is going to zip up the coast like Mari suggested, but not quite kiss the Northeast, but yet the East Coast looks more likely to get more rain. And looking at this extended outlook here for tropical tidbits, I mean, tons of moisture is on its way to the Northeast by looking at this pattern right here, especially as we get into mid-September. High pressure is dominating over the Great Lakes, but it's on the outer ring of that high pressure system, so that moisture is continuing to be like a conveyor belt around this high pressure system. The further south it moves, the drier the Northeast will be, as the majority of that moisture trapped in the Gulf and staying down in the Gulf, thank you to that high pressure system by the middle of the month of September. Let's check out a couple other runs of this real quick. Let's go to the 12Z. This, I think, last night was the first model that showed us that we were going to see it zip up the coastline. And let's see what this data shows us here tonight. There's its approach by Monday. Early Monday, late Monday night into Tuesday morning, this thing touches the east coast of Florida. And this too has a low pressure of 954. This particular run of the model makes it a little bit further inland in Florida. But again, Jacksonville. So there's 2 model runs that are agreeing with each other that Jacksonville, Georgia, South Carolina are going to get quite a bit of rain with this particular system, and almost identical to the 18Z as well, with South Carolina and North Carolina's precipitation chances. Wow. This thing really blows up. Now this model run shows it stalling out a little bit in North Carolina and then just kind of taking off going out to sea by Monday, September 9th. So this is where we were last night. We thought this storm was going to go this path last night. Already that's changed, and it's further inland than we originally thought. Wow. The 12Z really shows lots of moisture across the northern plains into the Great Lakes, across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, into the Northeast without a hurricane. A pretty strong low pressure system coming down out of Canada as well. On September 13th, that's going to graze the northern plains and some of the Great Lakes, not really, before that falls apart. But these 2 models so far are showing us that it's definitely going to be wetter across Ohio, the Northeast, the South, and the northern part of the northern plains, and some parts of the Great Lakes. Let's go all the way back here to the beginning. This is the 0, the worst case scenario usually. And this storm first showed up on this model as a coast hugger, basically. Here we are, September 1st. Again, the track is all about the same here, guys. The 0 and the 18 are probably the closest right now in the landfall and the track. But look at this. The 0 has it originally where we saw this on the GFS back on Wednesday, going up the majority of the state of Florida, still agreeing that Jacksonville, Georgia, South Carolina are going to get hit. But this storm is more hugging the coast than it was inland in the previous model runs. But a lot heavier, it hangs around, it goes further up the coast in the 0. And again, the 0 and the 18 right now are pretty close in agreeing about what this storm's going to do. The 00Z has it basically going further inland, and the 18Z basically has us doing more of a coastal hug. Let's take a look at one more time at the 18Z run of this. Here we are, landfall on Tuesday, September 3rd, the day after a G1, minor, mind you, minor solar storm, nothing major, But still, it's going to amplify this. And the pressure is already showing at 948 on September 3rd. Storm will make landfall, half and half. Jacksonville, Georgia, South Carolina looks to get the most of this rain here. And into the Carolinas, North Carolina and South Carolina both will receive their fair share. But this 1800 has it going up the coast to the mid-Atlantic states and possibly just kissing New York City. And I'm talking about just waves and rain showers, nothing major at this point. Just depends on how these high-pressure systems are going to be moving. So, we definitely have a hurricane. We're almost at Cat 4 right now. The possibility of this increasing to a Cat 5, unfortunately, in my opinion, and it's just an opinion and an observation, but it does seem like that we will see a chance of a Cat 5 hurricane. And a lot of this is based on water temperature that we have here. If you're looking at this here as this storm approaches Florida, we have very hot water. You can see that clearly, guys. I mean, this is not making this up or exaggerating. You can tell the difference of the color here. Still warm waters, but look at when we get to Florida. And the fact that when it gets right here, that's September 2nd. We're right in the middle of a G1 geomagnetic solar storm. Highly charged particles will definitely be flooding our atmosphere at this point. So this hurricane is going to be fed by the heat of the water temperature and the atmosphere at once. It's slowed down. It's slowed down to 10 miles an hour. It's slowed down 3 miles per hour today over 6 hours. No, slow-moving storms, that's Harvey, you know. I'm not saying it's going to be a Harvey-type storm, but it definitely has a chance to wreak a lot of damage. That's where I'll go with that. I don't like to make a lot of predictions.
I read an article that...
Come on over here, Mar. It's that time already. That was pretty much my weather outlook for right now.
You're just mumbling in the background, you know.
Yeah, let's hear what you got to say.
You thought the puppy was me giggling earlier. That made me laugh, Jake. I was saying, I read an article today that they're expecting power outages that could last several days. So run out tonight and get prepared if you're not to be without power for a while. We don't know how the storm is. It's basically, we'll have to watch it unfold. You know, the best case scenario is it zips up the coast and doesn't touch land at all, but it's still going to bring in a lot of moisture and damage. So let's take a look at the chat here. First off, Pisces came in and he's like, how's the house doing? Everything good? And I'm like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
So I was
slow moving.
He's like, wow,
yeah.
Shouldn't have asked. I'm like, there you go, let's learn.
There you go. Less is more.
You gotta laugh. Okay, so Marco, everyone. Marco.
Polo.
No, Marco Valley in the chat is Gina. It's Marco's wife, everyone. So if you see me talking to Gina and you're like, who the hell's Gina? Where's Gina in the chat? Well, Gina is Marco's wife. Just for clarification. I haven't lost my mind.
Marco is code for something.
Polo. I don't know,
I'm
Jake.
joking. I'm joking.
Whatever.
Thanks, Mari.
And then, let's see. Joey Bodecker says, I'm waiting on a politician to say they can fix the sun.
They just gotta put in lower watt light bulbs in the sun simulator and we won't have this problem, right?
And then Cheryl's still having problems spreading the word. It gets sort of disappointing when you try to tell people and they're just sort of like, whatever. You know, they don't care. Because it is dire information and everyone should be preparing to adapt to this climactic change that is underway. But that is not the case. People don't want to hear it. Sad truth. Matanaya has been getting sort of weird issues with the chat, having problems. He also mentioned that he saw a YouTube channel debunking the GSM. He put, it's so hilarious. The the amount lengths go to prove man-claimed climate change. He tried to debunk saying that the pictures of kangaroos in the snow was exaggerated.
Yeah, it's all Photoshopped.
Was it hail? I don't know. Maybe, because you get that a lot. People confusing hail and snow. It happens.
I think it was snow.
We do a pretty good job vetting. I don't want to talk about vetting stuff right now. But anyway.
Moving along.
You get it. Onward.
Next.
Let me just read something else. I think that's all I got. I should just shut up right now. Oh, okay. I did say in the chat, the hacking up of the live show into parts, I'm learning through trial and error. And honestly, for what it's worth, it's not worth the effort I put in to chop these episodes up into separate segments, have separate thumbnails, separate titles, upload them all at different times. It's too much.
It is.
And I don't work for free.
Nope. Well, and that's it. I mean, today you spent 10 and a half, 12 hours today.
Time is precious.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do to compromise people who don't like listening to the full 1 hour show, I think this is a really fair, easy compromise, is in the comment section below this video after the show, what I'll do is I'll take the timestamp of each article and just do like a chapter listing. So all you have to do is click on the timestamp and it'll bring you to that point in the video to watch that article or whatever. I think that's going to be the easiest way going forward to do that. And then we're not clogging our feed and we're not putting that extra work in where it's not really worth it. It's a lot of time. Well, I'm going crazy, guys. Come on, give me a break.
The purpose of it was that not everybody has an hour and 15 minutes to sit and watch this program. I get that. And Mario was just trying to help folks that, hey, if you don't have the time, we'll break it up. You can watch climate this time and you watch weather later and blah, blah, blah. But no lie, I work a regular 9-10 hour day. I come home. She is working from the time that I leave the house and 2 or 3 hours after I get home. So it is probably best we just stick with the solar updates, our live shows Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm sure Mario will break in with live breaking news at any moment, or, this will give us more chance to produce more content. And we have a couple of interviews that we still have yet to finish to put out as well. So there's a lot of, we're backlogged, I guess you could say.
I'm completely backlogged. I had the computer crash, which got me behind, and multiple other things, and then I have projects I'm working on the side. So it's just a lot. What are you laughing at?
Pisces says weekends work for me. Well, unfortunately, the weekends don't work for us. So
sometimes you just need a break.
You got to. You all need to enjoy this weekend with your families and friends. It might be the last warm weekend we have for the year. Sometimes I think some of us get too caught up in this, and it is a void that if you don't give yourself a break from, it could drive you crazy, honestly.
Well, it's easy. I know all too well, with my finger on the pulse to world news and what's going on, and chatting with like Teo from The Watchers and the Starman, David Birch, and my discussions with Jake and even Matt Bros. There's a lot that we take in 24/7, and it's like sometimes I hope our viewers do this just for their own sake. Get offline and cut the cord and just enjoy life a bit, because it's easy to get sucked in online and absorb it all, and it weighs on your shoulders watching everything go down worldwide. It's like heavy stuff to take in.
Oh no, Cheryl, we're still going to go live Monday night.
And Cheryl also, she put, Mari, are we changing faster than expected? Absolutely. Sure. Without a doubt. When we started this channel 3 years ago, there's no way I thought I'd be feeling the way I am right now, seeing what we've seen, like I'm watching everything unfold. From NASA revealing, NASA and NOAA revealing that we're having record low sunspot levels that haven't been seen in the past 200 years. To going where we were 3 years ago, to have everything line up and be validated now is like, I didn't want to be right. I tried to debunk this, I couldn't, and it just sucks. Period. Sorry. Go ahead and cheer him up on the way out, Jake.
Well, hey, all I can say is everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the time that we have. This is supposedly the last official weekend of summer. Some of you may have to work. Sorry about that. Some of you may have off for the weekend. Again, enjoy the time. No shows on Saturday or Sunday. If something does happen, I can't. Let me take that back. Expect probably an update on the hurricane, at least. That's something that we will continue to watch just because we do have space weather involved with this as well. So I'm not saying we're not going to have a show Saturday or Sunday. We'd like to try to have a break, but I don't think this storm is going to allow that. So we probably will sneak in with a live update on the hurricane. We are still having a show on Monday as well at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's going to do it for us tonight, folks. Thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum News Channel this Friday night. We hope you have a great Labor Day weekend. And stay tuned. Click on those notifications and click on the bell. Make sure you hit all for the notifications because we will break in with updates on Hurricane Dorian as it continues to intensify. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will talk soon.